I went to New York at the invitation of the Ukrainian Institute of America, which is a great organization. They have a big old mansion on East 79th, right off the park. Big, beautiful building that they got from a man who invented some sort of screw thing about jet airplanes, who was Ukrainian and made all this money, and then bought the building and donated it to this organization. So today I was invited down. There's a Ukrainian journalist, and her name is Natalia Gumenyuk, and very, very impressive person. She's been all over the place talking about stuff. And I was there at just at a table. It's not a closed door thing with a bunch of journalists just talking about what it's like to cover the war in Ukraine now and the frustrations people have with it. What's good about the coverage, what's bad about the coverage, that kind of thing. So I just have a couple of notes I want to share. One, explain it. I explained it. I explained why I was there. Natalia runs this thing called the Reckoning Project. Reckoning as in Day of Reckoning. Okay. And what she does with her group is, I mean, when the Russians came, especially in a Kherson, and I felt like in the know because Zarina has written about Kherson extensively, which I've published on Prevail. They took a lot of people prisoner and tortured them and, had them in these places and held them for, weeks at a time. So after the liberation of Kherson, people were set free, and she sits down with her team and they interview people about their experiences being. Oh, wow. And it's, so we watched this like 12-minute video that she made. Yeah. Very powerful, and no, there's no propaganda about it. It's very much, this is what happened. And she kept saying, we need this for history so people can learn about it historically, and we need it for litigation down the line. We need to have documentation that this happened, that the Russians did this, and this is what's happening. I think there's something like 170,000 documented war crimes that the Russians have committed. That seems like a lot. I'm not a war criminal, but that seems like a lot. So, and there's a lot of people that are still being held by the Russians, who are Ukrainian. They're journalists. They're just citizens who were being held. And she told this story where, she goes all over the place talking to people to do her thing. Like I said, really smart, impressive person. And she said that, last year there was a journalist that she knew that she worked with who got held. And Natalia was saying, she's there. We have to get her out. What can we do to get her out? We got to get her out. And people were kind of be like, yeah, well, giving her the runaround a little bit. And then a year later, she's dead. And then everybody's doing all these tributes to her and all this kind of stuff. But it's like, where were you a year ago when she was still alive and we could have gotten her out? So that's one of the things. Another thing is somebody was frustrated with explaining to Americans why the Ukrainians are fighting, why they're not just like, yeah, whatever, we'll go to the negotiating table, fuck it, and what it is. And Natalia said something that I liked. I wrote it down. She said, war is bearable, occupation is not. And I thought that was a great quote. And especially in light of our recent Andor thing, right? But this is real. They're really occupied. And, not for nothing, we might be there in this country too. We're not out of the woods by any start of, imagination. The summer's coming. This is going to be an intense summer. In Russia, they do not warfare in the winter because it's too cold, but spring, summer is when this stuff happens. Putin knows that the U.S. isn't going to do shit because Trump won't betray him. So he has kind of a green light to do whatever he wants. And two more things, and then I'll be done. When they took over Crimea, initially they were, jailing people who were really out there dissidents and very vocal activists and stuff like that. But eventually it got to be anybody that has an opinion at all has to come with us. Even whatever the opinion is, doesn't even matter. You're not allowed to have an opinion. And that's the sort of thing that we want to avoid here. And I think it's important. My thing is, we need to tie this into what we're dealing with here in the United States, right? We need to, this is what's happening in Ukraine. We need to tie it into what's happening in the US and see that it is very similar. And the last piece that she said is, people are saying here now, not her, somebody else said this. People have a tendency in the United States to be like, because of this great thing that happened last week with the spider web, which is very much like, you know, the rebels blowing up the Death Star in a lot of ways, right? Oh, but you know, Ukraine's doing great in the war. It's going to be over soon. Everybody's fine. It's fine. I don't have to think about it anymore. And that's not true. The war isn't going to be over soon. It's not going to be over until Putin decides that it's over. And until that happens, it's going to keep happening. And they're not going to surrender. They're not going to give up. It's going to keep happening until Russia stops. And until Russia stops, there's no, you know, however great the thing that happened last week was, which it was fucking incredible, it doesn't change the calculus here. We have to keep being in the moment and understanding that they need our help. And it's not a humanitarian thing, although there's humanitarian aspects to it. The best thing that the United States can do, in my opinion, for national security is help Ukraine. Cost effective. I know they love the word efficiency. It's efficient. And if we take out Putin and this government, I mean, that's good, man. It's good for democracy globally. It's not, we don't even have to fight. We don't have to send people there to fight. All we have to do is give them some fucking weapons and spend money on making more weapons to boost U.S. industry. It's a win-win-win. And Trump doesn't want to deal with it.